Okay, so I will begin with the next topic, training throws. So you have already gone through jumps training and uh, so so like the previous session, Mr. Veera asked you about the jumps, the biomechanical aspects on which factors the performance of a jumper depends, the biomechanical aspects. Remember the slide? So can you tell me the three biomechanical aspects for performance in throwing events? Anybody? Remember release angle and two more factors.
The height and also the speed.
Yeah, you are right. Good. So the throwing performance of the implement, throwing performance in throws, it is the implement. So how far you can push or throw will be your performance. So this performance depends upon three aspects, biomechanical aspects. One is release velocity or speed. Second one is release angle, and the third one is height of release. Out of these three factors, although all the three factors are important, but release velocity affects the most because a slight difference in the release velocity, slightly more or slightly less, will affect a grade to the performance. Okay, so the output of these three factors depends upon the physical abilities of the athlete. So first of all, when we see the throws, what is the performance structure of a throwing event, or what are the factors upon which this performance depends, or overall factor? So in demand profile, as we just discussed in the previous session about the strength training, strength is a dominating motor ability in the throws. We know that. Okay, so but what type of strength we require, we need for throwing events?
Exclusive strength.
Yeah.
Exclusive strength.
Explosive strength, right?
Yes, explosive.
Okay. So how many types of strength are there? How many types of strength?
6
Yes. There are three types of strength. One you already mentioned, explosive strength, or it is known as speed strength. Okay. And another one, just you can see on the screen, the maximum strength. There are three types of strength. Number one, maximum strength. Number two, explosive strength or speed strength. And number three is strength endurance. Strength endurance is a strength ability actually. So what is maximum strength? As its name, maximum strength, what is the definition of maximum strength? A simple definition of maximum strength is, it is the ability to produce maximum force by working muscle. So how much force you can produce is maximum strength. And explosive strength or speed strength is how fast you can produce the force. So when we say maximum strength, it is not restricted to time. It is the amount of force, how much force your muscles can produce. But when we say speed strength or explosive strength, it is time bound, how fast you can produce that force. So you can see on the screen when we analyze a throwing event, we need to develop maximum strength and explosive strength also, or speed strength. And the third thing is general static and dynamic core strength also. So that is our target, our aim to get highest possible performance. So as you mentioned, just I asked you, for throw we need speed strength or we need explosive strength, because throwing events are very explosive and very fast, quick in nature. The last release action is very fast. In javelin throw, javelin is released at a international level. Javelin is released at this velocity of 28-29 meter per second, whereas shot put is a heavy implement that is also released with a nearly 15 to 16 meter per 16 meter per second. This is the release velocity. So it is very highly explosive event. All the throwing events are very high explosive, and they require high speed for good performance. So when we want to develop speed strength, okay, or explosive strength, but to achieve that explosive strength, we have to develop maximum strength also, and we need to develop static and dynamic core strength also for torso, to control the coordination or to control the technical movements during the throwing attempt. So why we need to develop a maximum strength? Why we can't only develop speed strength? This is the question. Okay. So we need explosive strength, but to develop explosive strength, we have to develop maximum strength also, because maximum strength is the base for development of explosive strength. Okay. So we need to develop speed strength, but you have already studied about the periodization. So when we want to develop explosive or speed strength, we have to plan accordingly. We have to periodize the available time or available duration for the preparation of competition, because the quality that we need, it should peak at the right time, at the right competition. So how we will design the program so that we will improve our athletes' speed, strength, qualities on the day of competition. So how we will design that? For that purpose, we need to understand the periodization also. So you can see on the screen just in front of you, this is just a model of periodization. Not of very long duration. It starts in the month of February and ends in the August. There are some competition, like you can see on the first week of August and last week of August. So we have 7 months. Suppose we have 7 months. So this is our available time. So how we will develop our peak performance of strength abilities on the day of competition starting from February month. So already you know that we have to divide into different training periods: preparatory and competition. Up to the mid of July we have preparatory, then it is competition. So we will insert mesocycles also. I will explain this in the later slides. So in the beginning we have drying in. These are the name of mesocycle. One mesocycle can have 3-4 weeks or more than that. You can see here the first mesocycle is having 4 weeks, that is drawing in mesocycle. Then there's a basic mesocycle 1, basics 2, then control and preparatory and competition. So now I will come to the point about the strength development for throwers periodization. So in the beginning, when we are starting the season, so we start with the mesocycle here for 4 weeks. It can be longer also. It is just a model, one sample. So 4 weeks of drying in mesocycle, there is anatomical adaptation. So AA means anatomical adaptation. So I will just show you this the whole one sheet plan. We will not go into detail. Just you can look at these the loading pattern. So I'm coming to the anatomical adaptation phase, which is in the starting part of our periodization. 4 weeks of we have kept here 4 weeks of anatomical adaptation. So the main objective of this phase is anatomical adaptation because you are starting the season. So I have just one question for you. Can you answer that question? Suppose your athlete is starting the season after transition phase and preparing for the competition. So what type of strength training you will plan for your athlete in the beginning of the season or beginning uh, part of the preparatory period? Can anybody answer? What type of strength training you will plan?
Strength endurance, sir. I think so.
Okay.
Stress endurance.
Okay. Strength endurance. Okay.
Hypertrophy.
Hypertrophy. Okay. Your answers are right. Okay. So why we want to go for a strength endurance or hypertrophy or this type of training in the beginning? What is the reason?
For the conditioning, I think.
Yes, you are right. Conditioning. And why we need conditioning in the beginning?
20 for a long time.
Hmm.
Injury prevention.
Yes, injury prevention. Because just in the first slide, I mentioned that for a thrower, we need to develop explosive speed strength. We need to develop maximum strength. And for development of maximum strength and speed, we need high loads. And we can't start training with the high loads. Your athlete's body musculoskeletal system is not ready for high loads. And if we'll start with high loads or explosive workouts, it can cause injury. So we have to prepare our athlete for high loads, and that's why this phase is known as anatomical adaptation phase. So our training is designed in such a way that your athlete will create a good base, like you mentioned, some speed endurance, strength endurance also, some hypertrophy conditioning. So whole system, whole joints, all the joints are ready for high loads. Because if you start straight with maximum strength, suppose in the first week or in the beginning days of your plan, you start maximum strength. So maximum strength, how you can develop maximum strength? Can anybody answer the methodology? How much percentage or how much load you need to develop maximum strength?
85 and above, sir.
Right. So 85%. So 85% intensity means if you have your maximum capacity, that is one repetition maximum. Suppose you are doing bench press 80 kg, one repetition, you are able to lift maximum 80 kg bench press. That means that is your 100%. So if you will go for high percentage, that will cause injury. Why? Because your muscles will gain strength in very quickly, but your joint attachments that are ligaments and tendons, they need more time for strength gain. Then that's why we plan here with low intensity, some longer duration, working on strength endurance, some hypertrophy also. So your athlete's body will get adapt. So that's why phase is known as adaptation phase. So what should be the methodology of anatomical adaptation phase? We already mentioned about the maximum strength, but when we are going for anatomical adaptation, so first thing is load. How much percent load you should go? If your athlete is a just junior athlete or novice athlete, you can go 30 to 40% of the load. You should lift, not more than that. But if you have a mature athlete experience, you can go for 40 to 60% load. And duration can, for beginner, need longer duration, 8 to 10 weeks, even more than that. But if your athlete is already trained, has a good training age and 18 plus and above, then you can go for 4 or 5 weeks. So now in this training program, our main objective is to involve all muscle groups. We have to involve because it is a conditioning program. So to perform that conditioning program, to involve all the muscle groups, we need more and more number of exercises. This is the main point of this phase. So you will be in a microcycle, you will be having high number of exercises, and because you will be having more and more exercises, you have to target all muscles, all body muscle. So the number of sets per exercise will be less. That's why you can, this is just example of circuit training. You can go for circuit training. So here number of sessions or circuits means number of sets. So you can have 2 to 3 for beginner, or 3 to 5, or even 3, number 3 to 4 is sufficient. So number of sets. Then because load is low, so you can go for high number of repetitions. So that will develop your strength endurance also. That will fulfill your purpose of somehow hypertrophy also. And the number of repetition depends upon the exercise. So according to exercise, you can have more and more number of repetition. And rest interval, you can have nearly 1 to 1 minute between sets. Okay. So, but if you feel your athlete is tired, you can extend the duration of the rest interval. So I will show you just because I have just mentioned you that we need to involve more and more number of exercises, because we want to target almost all the muscles, because the objective is conditioning. So for conditioning, you need more number of exercises. I can't show all the exercises here, but I will show you few exercises. Like we have to cover all the joint: shoulder, elbow, wrist, hip joint, knee joint, ankle joint. So I will show you some videos like. So this is for shoulder. This is just one exercise. You can target all the muscles, shoulder cuff exercises. So this exercise is targeting shoulder muscle, that deltoids. So this exercise is targeting triceps muscles, and also you have to statically hold the shoulder joint also and the lower back also in this position. So for this exercise, you can use you need light weight, and you can use like this resistance bands or some pulleys or different equipment. Like this exercise is for upper back muscles. And the next exercise, the athlete is using heavy weight, because this was video is made from the next mesocycle, not from the first mesocycle. But you can have the same exercise with own weight, body weight, or you can hold some like 5 kg dumbbells also, but you can perform the same exercise. This is for glutes. So this exercise. So in the first session, we have discussed about the overhead squat test, how the different muscles affect your body position. So most like glutes and hip muscles are the bigger and the strongest muscle. These muscles should be trained properly. This is also hip joint. So in this exercise, leg is straight, just dropping the hip. The target muscle is iliopsoas, the lower abdominal muscles, and other hip muscles also. So this is one more exercise for core muscles. Now for ankle muscles. So this exercise is for plantar flexors, holding the plate for 6 to 8 seconds. And there are many exercises for this ankle. So I'm showing you this exercise to make the concept clear that during the beginning of the preparatory phase, the main objective is anatomical adaptation conditioning, so that your athlete, when your athlete will start heavy load, your athlete should be free from injuries, maximum protection from the injuries, and power output will be more. And one more exercise for glutes and hamstring. So again, she's already doing with the heavy weights. You need not to start with the heavy weight. You can start even without any weight. Later on, you can start with 5 kg plate or dumbbell or kettlebell. Gradually, you can increase. But as I mentioned, this video was made not in the first mesocycle, in the second mesocycle. Already she was fit. Okay, the next exercise is actually from a jumper. This exercise, mostly jumpers they do, but you have to look for a good exercise for other events also. I will show you why I have chosen this exercise. But this is for a long jumper. She is long jumper doing this exercise. So in this exercise for a throw, the main focus is ankle extension here, ankle. Once again, I will play this video. So for throws, ankle extension is very important, especially in the final phase, in the momentum building phase also. Once again, see ankle extension. She is doing with weight. So this is just a technical drill, but I'm showing you here how ankle strength or coordination is important for all the throws. This is a shot putter. It is important for discus throws as well as javelin throws also. So this is just drill. So you need to develop this in the momentum building phase, this ankle push. This is also, it depends upon the coordination and strength also. That's why I have shown you that exercise also. So we can use various means and methods to develop conditioning, to prepare our athletes for higher loads. So specifically for javelin throws, gymnastic exercises are very good on parallel bars and on horizontal bar also, on the Roman rings also. So again, I can't show you all the videos, but just I'm showing you on the floor. She is also javelin throw doing exercise. Javelin throws need a very good conditioning for shoulder and elbow joints, because javelin is the lightest implement and the release velocity is very high. So if your athlete's shoulder and especially elbow joints are not strong enough, there are chances of injuries, and it can affect the performance also in the both direction. Okay, so these are all our exercise. These are some exercise I just mentioned in the beginning. We need to target all the muscles, all the joints in the for the conditioning. So you can choose variety of exercise. Here, this is the part where you can use a variety of exercise to make your athlete physically fit. Okay, so after your this anatomical phase, the first part is over. Now your athlete is ready to develop maximum strength. So I asked you in the beginning one question: a thrower, what type of strength a thrower needs? The answer was right: explosive strength, or we call it speed strength. But to develop explosive or speed strength, we need to develop maximum strength. That's why throwers, even all jumpers, sprinter, they develop a good level of strength. They develop with various exercises like snatch, clean, or jerk, or bench press, or squat, or deadlift. These are the exercises which are used for developing maximum strength. So maximum strength is here where we develop maximum strength. So type of strength, maximum strength means the definition of maximum strength is ability to produce maximum force, highest force, possible force. So again, I am mentioning it is only about developing force, not about the quickness of developing force. When we say quickly develop force, that is speed strength or explosive strength. So first we need to develop maximum strength. So just going physiologically, most of you already know that our muscles have two types of fibers, mainly fast twitch fibers and slow twitch fibers. And these are genetically determined. And athletes who are having fast twitch fibers, majority, more ratio of fast twitch fiber, they are quick in movement. They are good for sprints or jumps, or can be good for throws if they have a good muscle mass. And athletes who are having slow twitch fiber, dominant slow twitch fiber, they are good in endurance event, because the slow twitch fibers, they does not produce force quickly, but they can produce force for longer duration. They are good in endurance. The fast twitch fiber, they quickly produce the force, but they can't produce the force for longer duration. Okay, so usually physiologically, slow twitch fiber are in color, they are more red in color nature, whereas fast twitch fiber, their color is pale yellow because of their endurance qualities. So usually white twitch, fast twitch fiber, we call it. So when we go for strength training, I'm coming to the point of slow and twitch fibers physiologically. I will not take much time explaining this. So when your force, you see here, this is graph, okay? On the horizontal x-axis, it is maximal force. On the y-axis, vertical axis, it is recruitment of motor units or recruitment of, you can say, muscle fibers. Okay. So when we are exercising, suppose at 50% load of our maximum. Okay. If we are working on 50% of the load, the recruitment of muscle fibers, or we can say, yes, muscle fibers is less. Not all the muscle fibers are involved in just one action. But when we increase the load, when we go above 80% of our load, that triggers the recruitment of fast twitch fibers. That increases. And as we increase the intensity, as we move closer to the 100% or at 100%, the body also recruit more and more fast twitch fiber. So that's why if you want to develop maximum strength, just you answered that the load should be at least 80%. So if you want to develop maximum strength, you have to go beyond 80% of your maximum capacity, then only you will be developing maximum strength. Below that, the recruitment of muscle fibers or the fast twitch fiber goes down. This is the main reason we first go for maximum strength development. The second point I will discuss on the next slide. So when we want to develop maximum strength, the load should be 85 to 100%. So if you say, I am going to develop maximum strength for my athlete, you should design load at least 85%. So when you are above 80% of your athlete's capacity on any exercise, then only you are developing maximum strength. Of course, you will be having 2 or 3 or 4 sets, warm-up sets below that in one session. But when you cross the 80% load, maximum load, then only you will be developing maximum strength. So when you will be developing maximum strength, the number of exercises can't be high. Like in first phase, our target was to involve all the muscles, body muscle, maximum muscles. So we have to choose variety of exercise. Okay. But when we enter the maximum strength development phase, so number of exercise will be less. Per session only it can be 2 or 3, like you start with some snatch. Okay. We have done the snatch. Then you can go for squat, or if you want to include the third exercise, you can include bench press. This is just one example. So because load is high, the number of repetition will be less. It will be 1 to 4. So if you are at 85%, suppose you will be going for 3 or 4 repetition. As the load increases, repetition comes down, and the rest between the sets should be complete, because it is you need to refuel ATP CP. So rest should be at least 4 to 5 minutes. Normally it is 3 to 6 minutes. And because number of exercises is less, high load, number of repetition per set is less. Now you can go for high number of sets. It can be 6 to 10, even for advanced mature athletes, it can be 12 sets per exercises also. But for youth, like junior athlete, 18, 19, you can't go for a high number of sets also. Accordingly, you have to plan maybe 5 sets or 6 sets maximum. So how many times a week? You can go for 2 to 3 times per week session. So this is one for, but this is for elite athletes. This is flat pyramid method. So for development of maximum strength, you start at, suppose any exercise, say squat, you start at 60%, then increasing the load in 2 or 3 sets. When you reach 90%, you go for continuous 3, 4, or up to 5, 6 sets at the same load. So this is not for youth or young athlete. This is for senior, mature athletes or already having a training age of 8 to 10 years. So these are some exercises, but these are senior athletes, not young athletes. So you can see how we develop maximum strength. So that assistant was helping him so that just to keep the upper torso in a proper position, not supporting the weight. So once again, I will play. Inclined bench press, we have discussed about in morning session. So this is specific exercise for shot put. Okay. Once again, I will play. Bench press. So I'm showing these videos of senior mature athletes. Don't go for such heavy loads for young athletes, but these are the videos just to show you development of maximum strength. So I will show you the force time curve. So suppose our maximum strength phase is over. You have developed the desired maximum strength, but now there's one problem. Problem is with the time, because the throwing events are very explosive, fast in nature. So we have achieved a target of developing high force with the maximum strength training. So maximum strength training has recruited your fast twitch fiber, maximum number of fast twitch fibers. With training, now your body, your movements are able to recruit maximum number of fast twitch fibers, so that you are able to produce high level of force. But the problem is that your athlete's muscles are producing high level of force, but they are not able to produce it quickly. All the throwing events, especially in the final phase, the delivery phase, it is very quick action. It takes average 0.15 seconds on average. But the exercises which we have already performed, like I've shown you this exercise, squat and bench press are very slow, clean and snatch are very quick and explosive, but that these exercises also take for at least 0.3 seconds to produce that force. So problem is that your athlete has the capacity to produce force, but not very quickly. So this difference, the time taken required to produce the force for the event and the time your athlete is taken to produce force, the difference between that ability is known as a strength deficit. Strength deficit. Okay. So this gap should be minimum. So now after this, we will move on to the next mesocycle, where we will convert that strength ability into speed strength, into explosiveness, or we will add some speed. So you can see this is not exactly the that biomechanical curve, but just to show you, vertical axis is force, in the right horizontal is time. So you see like this on the right side, this curve, your athlete is producing this high force, this much force, but taking 300 millisecond, means 0.3 second. So we want to now train the muscle to produce the high force, but with the shortest possible time. So we'll try to shift this force time curve towards left side. So you can see these arrow. This means we want to produce high force, but with shorter time. Then only we will be able to produce a good performance in throws. So this is a very common problem. Athletes are able to perform good strength exercise, good level of strength, but they are not at the same level. The performance in the throwing events is not improving. The athlete is improving strength, but there is a little improvement in the performance. The root cause is the speed, the ability to produce that force in shorter time. So this is the phase. At the end of preparatory phase, we call it control and preparatory mesocycle, where we will convert this already developed maximum strength into speed strength. Okay. So if it is weight training, we can because we need speed, we will decrease the load 50 to 80%, and we can increase some repetition, and sets will be same exercise, but with the movement now will be more explosive and more speedy in nature. This is for weight training. And for then comes the ballistic method. Ballistic method means we can use some additional implement like medicine ball, kettlebells, some shots or some other additional implement. So with that, resistance is very low, but more than your standard implement, maybe shot or discus or javelin or hammer. So still you are developing force, but with high speed. Okay, so you can choose exercise accordingly. You can fix the repetitions and sets, and twice or thrice a week is sufficient. So I'm just showing you one video. This is with a ball. Like javelin is 600 gram for women, so we use normally 900 gram, 1 kg or slightly more than that weight. This is just one video. So there are many according to now in the morning we have discussed about the general and specific and special exercise. So now this exercise is more identical, not exactly identical, but closer to that exercise, similar. So this is known as special exercise for that event. So we can use plyometric and jumps that for lower body strength, and there are some exercises for upper body also. So this is the best one of the good method to develop explosive strength. But throws are usually like short putters are very heavy, so we can start with the low impact plyometrics, then gradually according to their capacity, observe, test them, then gradually you should shift over to them according to their capacity, higher plyometric exercises. So this is a javelin throw doing some specific exercise. Okay, this is plyometrics specialized exercise for once again. You can have stair jumps or other jumps for throwers, short putters. So then comes the competition period. So one more point I did not mention. When you are developing speed strength or explosive strength, so already you have developed the maximum strength. So during this phase, we should also maintain that already developed maximum strength. If you will not maintain the lifts like bench press, squat, or snatch, or other exercise, whatever you are doing, so the level of maximum strength, if drops, means the number of recruitment of fast twitch fiber you have already achieved during the maximum strength phase, that will also drop. So on one side, you are working on the speed, explosiveness. If you will not maintain the maximum strength, then because speed strength is the product of speed and strength. If any one element of these will drop, it will affect the power output. So we have to maintain the maximum strength. So I have just mentioned about the development of power during this phase, how you can develop, but you have to maintain the maximum strength also, like going above 80% or 100%. But the number of sets, like high number, you need not to go for high number of sets. You can reduce the number of sets. Maybe 4 or 5 sets can serve the purpose to maintain that maximum strength. Then comes the competition period, where you will maintain both maximum strength and explosive strength or speed strength. So, and you will be working more on tapering and peaking the performance, working more on the fine points of the throwing events. Okay, so for maintenance, load of maximum strength, load will be same, but the number of sets per session will come down. Okay, so I will finish my topic here regarding development of the throws training. If you have any question, you can ask.
Thank you, sir. Comprehensively, you explained, sir. Thank you very much for this kind of valuable knowledge. My question is what type of muscle we should have targeted first?
What
Which group
type
of muscle? Yes,
group of
muscles.
actually, yes,
Whether we are in conditioning phase, we are developing strength, speed, maximum strength.
Just I mentioned, when we are in the first mesocycle, that is anatomical adaptation, we have to target all the muscles. And when
Yes.
we are in maximum strength phase, then we have selected exercises. So that means we have automatically selected the muscle group. But it does not mean the work you have done in the first part of mesocycle will stop here. There we were mainly focusing, but the total ratio or the volume of those exercises will reduce. But because we have developed, but again, we have to maintain that conditioning also. So we will be doing that exercises in the 1 microcycle also during the maximum strength phase, like just mentioned in the control and preparatory phase, when you are developing speed strength or you are converting strength into speed strength or explosive strength, then you have to maintain maximum strength also. And in competition period, so you have already developed maximum strength, you have already developed speed strength in the competition period. Again, you have to maintain. So overall principle is that whatever you have already developed, that once there is a development phase, you will go for more load, more number of sets or volume. But once you have developed, now you have to maintain. So all these things will be maintained till the end of your season when you are entering the competition part.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Welcome. Any question? Okay, Ria, we can end the session here. So
Okay.
Okay, 10 minutes, short break.
Okay.
Another last 2 more for you guys to go for today. We have middle long distance, and then finishing off with the day will be with Parveen on sprints and hurdles. So give about 10 minutes break and then come back.
Sorry, but there is a question on the chat box for Mr.
Oh.
Parveen. Yeah.
okay, I will see.
Okay.
Okay, how many days weights in tapering? Okay, for a thrower, days remain same almost. There's a little difference, the number of days, but the total volume is reduced. Even especially if you have a last post pre-competition microcycle, just in the beginning first 2 days you are going for some weights, but gradually you are tapering. So because if I compare even throws, like there are 2 events, one is shot put, one is javelin throw. Shot is a heavy implement, is a different nature, whereas javelin throw is having light implement. So short putters, they even continue that strength training at a little bit more load as compared to relative as compared to javelin throws. Whereas javelin throws, they reduce this weight training session. They reduce, but not short putters. So it depends upon the event, but there's a number of days remains almost same, but you have to reduce the volume.
Manzoor. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, like there are like three lifts in Olympic, right? The clean, the snatch, and the jerk when it comes to the lifts. So when we go for the strength, which one will be the best one out of these three?
Out of
The
sorry.
clean, snatch, and the jerk.
Actually, if we see clean and snatch, the movement structure is almost same. Snatch is more require more high speed as compared to snatch, but little difference is there. Okay, jerk is a different exercise, but so it depends upon the event. Like clean and snatch we use for all the throws, even sprinters and jumpers also do. Okay, jerk is an exercise which javelin throws are using, other throws are using, but the purpose of exercise for clean and snatch, it is very important. We are working on the hip extensor, lower body, trunk, and arm also is all body power exercise. It is a high load, high speed exercise. Like squat and bench press, it is high load, slow speed exercise. Whereas clean and snatch, they come in one category, high load, high speed exercise. Now, jerk in sports specific in throws is slightly different. What is the purpose of jerk mainly? Jerk is to, because in whether it is javelin throw or shot or discus or hammer, in the delivery phase you have to firmly fix your torso in the delivery phase from power position. So you need a very strong torso strength, that this jerk exercise helps in that purpose. Okay, otherwise explosiveness or in this purpose, clean and snatch are very important and very good exercise, and you can do it with the same with combination also. Combination mean in one microcycle, like for example, sometime I do, because we have lot of volume, we can't go for 3 sessions of clean and 3 sessions of snatch. It will be too heavy. So what we do, because movement is structure is same, suppose we have 3 weight training session. On the first beginning of the microcycle, we go for snatch, but not may be sometime heavy, sometime light load, working more on the speed. Then next 2 sessions we are going for clean. With clean we go for, because with clean you can lift more weight, so we go for heavy weight. So we make just this type of combination also, whereas normally in an exercise you need at least twice, that any exercise should be there for at least twice in a week for better adaptation effect. But if you are joining snatch and clean, even you can go for 1 session for snatch and 2 sessions for clean.
Thank you, sir.
And there are still 2 questions left on the chat box, Mr. Parvez.
Yeah, first question, tapering I have answered. So for heptathlon, okay, for heptathlon it is like a javelin throw, slightly you can reduce. And for meso and microcycle, how can we design for the long term? So it is a different topic of periodization actually, but we will try to answer. I have already explained it. All right, so
Yes.
we can
No
have
more
break.
question now.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parvez.
What time is finished here?
Sorry, Pa?
What time are we starting again?
Yes, yes, yes. Mic is yours, Pa, please.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Hope everybody is still able to absorb. Today is a slightly longer day as compared to yesterday, and hopefully some of these informations are useful and helping you guys to develop. Okay, moving forward, we have covered general endurance yesterday in terms of how we can go about developing them. Today, the focus will be more on preparing for event-specific endurance development. Like in many sports, endurance, general endurance, pretty much it helps the day-to-day basis of completing the training, carrying out training. But when it comes to event-specific driving, it is will be in relation to the time duration. How long is the event have to be run, or in terms of perform, then the endurance has to accommodate to that. So today, our aim will be moving closer to the middle distance area rather than the general endurance, which pretty much will cover the longer distance in track and field. So how many events do we have in middle distance? Can you name out all the middle distance coaches?
800, 1500.
800, 1500.
800, 1500, 3000 meters.
3000 meters. Okay.
Event in middle long distance.
Yeah, give me the long distance as well, so we can go for
5,000 long distance, 10,000 long distance.
10,000 long distance. Anything else is missing?
Marathon.
So again, marathon. Okay.
Half marathon.
Half marathon. Anybody say steeplechase?
Yes, 3000.
3000 meter steeplechase. Okay. So Olympic events or major games event is 800, 1500, 510, steeple, marathon. Okay, correct. That's from endurance aspect. What else is missing here?
Race walking.
Race walking. Pretty much race walking is another endurance event that will be covering in major games. But for today, our purpose will be pretty much more on the running events, and specifically we're talking about middle distance to help us to support the overall event running. Okay, energy source system. We covered yesterday a little bit on how to develop the aerobic glycolysis and of course the lactate, the fat source bit in terms of the energy duration of these endurance. Today, we will try to focus a little bit more on what I call the faster aspect of running, especially when we need to cover event which goes slightly over 1 minute 50 seconds or 1 minute 40 seconds in international level. So again, this energy source will be the way we want to trigger, provoke. So we need to have a very clear understanding which speed or which running speed will give us that platform. So in this aspect, we have seen this chart before earlier. Again, we will not cover those already been highlighted. Today we'll look into what I call the faster running, basically 800 all the way up to 1500. 3000 meter is also an event, should be considered as middle distance in local, probably at least in international standards, because you're looking at about covering the distance anywhere between 7 to about close to about 9 minutes. So this really considered as middle distance event. But of course, for younger athletes, you're looking at that as slightly longer because of the ability to cover the distance. Again, in terms of mitochondrial adaptation, we will move away now towards what I call the output of it, the ability for it to generate energy for us. Earlier in our general endurance, it's more about increasing the number. Now we're looking for power output from mitochondria. Again, interval session will be predominantly an area that we'll be focusing on. And of course, maximum effort will also provide this support. For endurance events, of course, we have in terms of intervals, tempo variation method. we have interval method with short recovery and repetition method with longer recovery. What's the difference between interval and repetition is based purely, it's a differentiation of the recovery. So I think many a times in the distance running circle, we use these two words interchangeably, interval and repetition. So to have clear understanding, interval means we have a shorter recovery, repetition means we have a longer recovery. That will be basically to help us to have a clear understanding when you do this. And for power events, especially like I said, if I were to move 800 to slightly on the sprint aspect of running, I mean the long sprint aspect, so it can be considered as a semi power event already. So again, various methods of this technical capacity method, variation, tempo variation, and interval short recovery could also be considered as some way we can improve it. An idea, a strategy for us to look at, because there will be different profile of middle distance runners that's been studied. Again, you will have the 400, 800 type, you have the absolute 800 meter runners, and of course you have what we call the 800, 1500 meter guys. So these three groups of runners have what I call a different response to training, because they are predominantly able to exhibit certain what I call energy system. So what we need to be mindful when we prepare athletes who are going into this specialization, again, is to see which training response are they able to give better. Not always what I call aerobic endurance training, long continuous run will be the method to use to improve aerobic content. Just like the mention here, those athletes who are highly responsive to neuromuscular anaerobic kind of base athletes will not benefit from a high density of continuous aerobic work. So your aerobic work has to come from a different perspective. So again, a different way of doing it. So the same goes for athletes with, again, like 1500 meter guys who have a high aerobic support. Of course, they do need the neuromuscular and aerobic part of training to be involved. And the middle portion, the so-called guys who are going to become absolute 800 meter specialists, then it will be a lot of neuromuscular activation with anaerobic activity. And of course, a good, strong base of aerobic will support this development. So again, when we prepare athletes in middle distance or in at least event-specific preparations, good to understand how they're responding and what kind of response do you want to put in to ensure that you get a maximum benefit of performance. Okay, in this area, another one that you will always have to look for as a coach will be what we call the race profile. Race profile means how does the athlete run the race from start to the end. Basically, you're taking split times of every 100 meters, okay, of the athlete when they complete, and then you're putting it into an Excel template, and then you can see how the graph looks like, okay. For the 1500 meters, there's a certain style of running. Basically, you look at it at the bottom here. Zoom in a little bit. So you'd always, the first 100 meters is always 105% above the goal pace or the performance pace. Okay, why? Because this is where when the gun goes, they're all sprinting to get a good position. And what they do is on average, they'll maintain around 98% of that performance pace, final goal pace, almost up to the last 300 meters. And of course, they start kicking in the last 300 meters. So this would be what I would call a very generalized speed or race performance cycle. So if you go to the 800, 800 slightly have a very similar profile to what I call the sprints, where it starts high and then it kind of drops down gradually as the speed starts reducing. So again, that's why we're saying that 800 could be the long sprints version of sprints events. even though yes, it does has a contribution of aerobic due to the duration it has to run in. But to be successful, it's also important to look at this profile as coaches, that we know how much speed to hold and the duration that need to be held. The next one is just to give you in local context, how does it look like? This is something which we Paria, we had together with Paria, we did it in Palembang, 2011 SEA Games. We managed to capture some results for our region. So this is the winner who ran 149, and Ridwan who ran 347 for the 1005. So basically both are gold medal winners. You can see a very nice graph of how they have run. If you take our gold medalist in 800, you can see the dotted line. The big box with a yellow, that's the so-called 100% gold time. That means it is 149 across. And then you see how the blue line moves up and down. So to show that he ran above, which is very typical because we are trying to break in. And then he has slowed down into the 400, and then he starts picking up the last 500, and then we finish off. So again, not a very sprint-like, but because it's championships, it could be due to the championship tactics. But if I were to shift, it could be that the 500-meter low lying, it could be slightly higher, and the 700 meters high lying performance could be slightly lower. So that will be more or less a gradual dip that when you are really going all out for performance. As compared to, let's say, our 1005, also again, pretty much a very high performance. So it went up to about above 105, even close to 110 almost in the first 200 meters. Again, establishment of speed. And then you can see there's a gradual dip. So again, this will not be an ideal performance for, let's say, a performance chase. But in a championships, such oscillation could be observed because the way they run is basically more tactical rather than performance based. So again, such graph is also will be useful as coaches to know how exactly the athlete have performed in a competition, especially when you're looking for a good timings. So then you will know exactly whether the athlete have kept the race goal or have dropped from the race goal, or probably has weaknesses. So this is where such I call graph help us to identify where is the missing things that we need to do in training. So with that, I think we are very familiar with this. So again, the importance of what I call a balanced endurance training is critical. We mentioned about these two areas where the drop is. Of course, one area is always shows the decline or weakness in a particular development. Again, we talk a lot today about keeping your biomotor abilities in equal, or at least given equal responsibility to development, speed, strength, coordination, flexibility, endurance. So everything that contributes to the development should be taken care, so that there will not be such situation where lack of performance or lack of improvement is due to lack of attention given to a particular biomotor ability. So this is where, again, I believe many of you are familiar with this 5-pace training theory, where if you're an 800-meter runner, okay, you run and if you have a component of 400, 1,005, 3,000, and 5,000 pace as part of your program. 1,005 guys, it could be 400, 800, 3,000, 5,000, or 800, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. So again, the second option is for somebody who's going towards the opportunity to become a long distance or a long distance runner. So again, that opportunity opens up. So it's good to know individual speed, strength, so it's speed, endurance, and endurance of the current athlete, and then to develop them from there. So again, always do not use Charts like this is good to have to identify where the trend is or how far they away. But when you're developing, it's good to develop from the absolute number of each performance. So at least you have some valid results to use to improve that particular event's demand. How can we test these demands? Of course, many of you are familiar with this COSMIN test, 800 meters. You run for 60 seconds. You take the distance you covered, rest for 3 minutes, and then you go again. You add the two distances, you should get a result here. So example, assume our athlete has run 700 meters. Okay, let's say he's run 700 meters. That means his targeted performance could be 2 minutes, 14 seconds. Okay, so that is the so-called forecast performance that we can use. So again, when you do tests, there's certain things that we can relate to the race practice. Then comes what we call for 1005, it's the same thing. You do 60-second tests 4 times. So after the first effort, you take the distance and then you take a 3 minutes break. Second run, take the distance, 2 minutes break. Third run, 1 minute, take the distance, and then the last one, take the distance. And you consolidate them together. You put them together, you'll get a result. So assume the athlete had run 1,500 meters. That means his forecast performance could be 4 minutes, 17 seconds. So that is a way to help coaches. So once you have this, and if you were to combine it with, let's say, the speed chart, the graph that I just showed, then you'll know exactly whether the athlete has that potential to maintain and run, or shows weakness in terms of pace judgment, in terms of weakness in other aspects. Then you can focus and develop them. Okay, so this is where you can make use of such I'll call it informations. Afterwards, it is also important that that is one more. There are more specific ones that were available for you all to consider. There's another one called 800 meters, where you just do an all-out effort of 600 meters. Then you take the result in seconds, and then you times 1.4, 1.42. So basically, if we were to give you an example, so if I were to go here, if I've run 600 meters in 120, that means 20 seconds. Seconds is 80 seconds. So if I were to use the formula, okay, I should get 1 minute 52 to 1 minute 53. This is a pretty much a very close performance. I have used it before. So again, I kind of rely on this as well as for all-out efforts. For 1005, this is a very famous one. I think you can find in everywhere. It starts with 400 meters. You take a 45-second recovery, and then you run 800 meters. You take an 90-second recovery, then 300 meters. You take a 3 minutes break. You repeat the set again. But when you're first doing it as an introduction to the athlete, we start with 90 seconds, because 45 seconds could be very, very demanding. Athlete might not be ready. So this could be a part of early, late general preparation, early specific preparation phase where you can introduce this. So you start with 90 seconds after the 400, 3 minutes after the 800, and then 1 lap walk instead of the 3 minutes jog recovery. When you combine the two timings, you should get, and then average it out, you should get a rough estimate. So example, if the first run was about 430, second run was about 450, average should be about 440. That would be the example. Of course, last one is the 5,000. Again, 4 times of 1,006, 4 laps with 90-second break. Again, you take the time, average the 4 times, then you times 3.125, which gives about 15 minutes. So all these are just basically what I call a rough indications to monitor performance development. And of course, nothing beats actual race events. So when you go and compete, actually, that gives the best result. But in the event, you don't find competitions, you don't have opportunities to compete. This can become an alternative to use to help you to keep track of training and then make necessary changes. As we move into distance down, the intensities that you'll be very concerned with will be slightly different compared to the earlier one, where we work around 95% to about 100 to 105% of velocity race pace. So the chart you see here is for 800 meters. So if I were to take event-specific endurance development, I take about 95% of race pace. I do it 3 sets of 3 times 300 meters, rest 2 to 3 minutes with 4 to 5 minutes set rest. That is really moving into what we call anaerobic capacity. Actual race pace, 300 meters, 6 times, 3 to 5 minutes. And of course, overspeed over and above, but we didn't want to go too fast over the required, rather 102% to 105%. Again, 4 times 300 meters. This time, because it's demanding, slightly longer recovery, 5 to 3 minutes. So this is how we will kind of pretty much set up for our event-specific preparation. So the intensity, you realize it's not too varied. It's a very closely dense together intensity band that you have. So again, one thing we need to keep in mind, especially when we are preparing for endurance events, not to lose track of what I call support of general endurance and aerobic power. So again, if you were to recap a little bit on our combination of what I call general endurance, where we do fast continuous runs or extensive interval training to develop aerobic and anaerobic aspect. Of course, we also want to combine it with long, steady or long, slow distance runs. Again, 2 elements that we will do to support the recovery or in what we call late phase of the general endurance and early phase of specific endurance development. So these areas will still be pretty much a what I call involved program and not completely remove it and keep it away. So again, this is also to keep the demand in because of the events need. So here, for beginning athletes, if I were to do the fast continuous run, then there's a day break between, and then I will do the long, slow delivery continuous run. If I were to use this, I use this once a week and alternating. It means 1 week we might do fast continuous run. The following week we will do as an extensive interval. So again, it is either or, but of course the long, slow distance run will be the recovery element here. Okay, for event specific, some of the components we have seen because of the race profile that we see earlier. Energy systems wise, of course, anaerobic, alactic, lactate, and aerobic systems will be involved. Neuromuscular system, we mentioned because of the events demand for the speed element of it. So coordination and speed related running mechanics will be important to develop. And of course, tactics and optimal arousals, mental preparations. Again, when you are involved or when you're seeing middle distance running, as compared to our throws and jumps, which is more of a closed skill, middle distance running will become what we call an open skill because they have to constantly get what we call react to the situations around them. So in that aspect, a mental preparation is very important as you are planning for event-specific endurance, not just from the physiological aspect of it, but also the mental preparation so the athletes are aware of how to handle mental preparation requirements. Okay, before we go forward, just a quick ones. Are you all familiar to know how to calculate the intensities? Or you all not familiar? If I were to say 95% of, remember we mentioned here, 95% here of race profile. Okay, how do we calculate them? So this is an example just to help you guys to know. So if the 800 meters, and if I'm targeting for 1 minute 55 for my youth runner, so in terms of seconds, it's going to be 115 seconds. So basically I take 60 seconds plus 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. I plus 55 seconds, I get 1 minute 15. So as 100% velocity, it will be 800 meters divided by 115 because it's meters per second. So you get 6.96. And to get 95%, I'll take the 6.96 divided by 0.95. I get 6.61. So I'll bring it back again. So I'll take 800 divided by 6.61. I'll get 121, which is basically 2 minutes, 1 second. So if I want to prepare for a workout as 800, 95%, then I know that I need to run it in 2 minutes, 1. So this is how the calculation is for intensity. So just to make sure you can have a clear know how to go about doing this. So in terms of event development, okay, this is where it's important. We take 95% of the goal pace, and then we take 75% of your competition distance. Okay, 800 means roughly you're looking at about 600 meters. 1,005, 75% will be roughly about 1,002, 1,003. Okay, volume, usually we will have that what we call a total number to be summing up to 800 or 1,005. So a complete volume. Okay, and then 2 sets of it. And then second set, usually we do with what we call shorter load volume. Okay, and recovery will be short in time or in terms of sets and then complete. Example of this, let's say I use 1,005 as an example. Okay, I run 1,200 meters as race pace, and then I take about 40 seconds, 45 seconds break, and then I do, let's say, a 300 meter all out. I take a complete break, and then I do a second set. The second set will be shorter. I do 5 times 300 meters with about 60 seconds. So again, that will be the way we can play with the volume. So the first one could be a bit more larger in size in terms of running distance. And the second one will be smaller, more what I call shorter versions, but easy to manage, but still having that velocity pace locked in. Okay, so that's how we can prepare for event specifics. When do we start them? Usually beginning of pre-competitions period, okay? And then usually it could be 2 units per 7-day microcycle. Some of us are familiar with the new 9-day cycle. So again, 7 days, it is something that conforms to many of our school operation or some of the daily operations we have in, let's say, our local youth setting. But the moment the athlete is able to commit, of course, we can consider doing the 9-day cycle as well. Of course, to have at least 72 hours rest between, because it's a very high demand loading session. Progression, normally we start with lower, shorter load, and then we increase gradually as the period goes. Rule of thumb, usually you can use anywhere between 6 to 10 days as, no, sorry, 8 to 10 days as a increment of distance or progression for event specifics. Okay, so with that, how we can improve event specific endurance? Of course, first we increase the number of repetitions, keeping the distance and the speed common, followed by increasing the distance according to the race, keeping the repetition and speed. Next, we'll increase the speed. Lastly, we will decrease the recovery, so we get it closer to the actual event requirement. Build up doesn't change much from our earlier stage. Of course, the number of volume still makes an important role in terms of days, in terms of time that's needed from puberty to post-puberty for them to be involved. Okay, next one. I will have a small activity for our guys to do. Okay, I'm going to look at this summary of our biomotor abilities, anywhere between 800 to 1005. Okay, we have the mobility, we have general endurance, speed. Okay, speed, endurance, strength, endurance, speed, strength, technique, and tactic. Okay, in your version, okay, now I need to spend a quick time. Either you can have a pencil to write down or a pen to write in front of you, or I'll take a mental note. Say what will be the most important for, let's say, 800, 1005. Okay, we will not I wouldn't say focus, but we'll keep 5,000 and 10,000 a bit brief. But for the 800 and 1005, what would be the most important and what would be the not so important? Just make a mental look, and then I'll give you about 5 minutes just to make a quick abbreviation. So if you put 5 crosses, means it's very important. 4 means it's important. 3 means it's necessary. You think you need it. 2 means it's not important. 1, not important at all. Don't write on the screen. Don't write on the screen. Please write for yourself. Okay, 2 more minutes, or you need longer? If you need longer, just say we need longer. Good to see a lot of focus face. Okay, good to go. Shall we move on to see the actual answers? If okay, can I have some thumbs ups? Okay, good. Thank you, Jeevan. Okay, so let's move on to see whether it corresponds to your findings. Okay, have a check. And you can, like I said, now it is open. We can have a short discussion on this. Anything that alarm you all, that means like kind of shock you. Oh no, that should not be. Maybe you can have a time to talk about it. Okay, remember 5 means very important, 4 means important, 3 means is necessary, 2 not so important, 1 not important at all.
The mobility part is something surprised me, because I thought steeplechase, yes, you have to have a very flexible like opening when you over the hurdle or jump into the pit. But this one when it's all 5, so it made me like it's like a shock, or like maybe wonder, okay, what it actually means for the mobility.
Okay, mobility means is joint. Okay, let's say we talk about a range of motion. Mobility, that means the joint is mobile. That means it's free to move around. So that's where it's very important, especially for long distance guys, because we tend to have athletes who have done a lot of what I call endurance running, volume work. Normally the muscles will get a little bit more shorter. That means because of the poundage. So flexibility and mobility is very important for distance runners, because to again, to restore 1, the joint range, 2, of course, is to minimize injuries, especially when you are required to run faster. Joint range is important, joint mobility important, stride length will be impacted by mobility. Again, stride frequency and all this will be part of it. So mobility is absolute necessary for distance runners as well, when it comes to, again, as part of the program.
All right, thank you, sir.
No problem. Anybody else have any doubts to clear here in this mini chart exercise?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
So when it comes to mobility, is it the flexibility?
Okay, flexibility is basically you do the stretch and hold. Okay.
Yeah.
But mobility means, like we're talking about hurdle walkovers, walking over hurdles, joint ballistic movements. So all these can become mobility. As long as the joint goes through a range of action continuously, it can be considered as mobility. So in terms of keeping it very simple. So very important to put what I call mobility exercises, even lying down, hands down, the leg swinging left and right, like the iron eagle type. All these are also joint mobility exercises. So again, mobility will be predominantly from keeping the body light down, and then I move the body closest to the ground, and then of course by lifting myself up, and then I'm moving over hurdles. So even if I have to hold a what I call medicine ball overhead, and then I walk over hurdles, can also help. Oops.
Yes, suddenly lost connection from Vira.
Jani. Can't hear, yes, Tuti.
Sorry, Mr. Viramani's lost connection.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking also.
Yeah.
This next session is Parfir.
No, still Vira. Yes, still Vira.
Maybe I'll see.
Yeah, there he is.
No question to go with.
Okay, coming.
Apologies for that. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, apologies for that. I think suddenly everything went black. So, okay, yes, we're mentioning about mobility. Again, holding medicine ball overhead, walking over hurdles could also improve, again, core strength in relation with mobilities as well. So again, variations of how you can introduce mobility exercises to your athletes.
So when it comes to biomotor abilities, isn't flexibility missing there and all the one that you have put? I don't see flexibility there.
Flexibility will come together with mobility. So we always will combine with mobility here, not separating it out separately and put it out. So usually we will try to combine together with mobility. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Any other questions?
Sir, good afternoon.
Yes.
Good afternoon. This is Regina Brando from Philippines. I just wanted to ask what is the reason why speed strength is not necessary for 5 and 10 kilometer, but it's necessary. Why speed strength is not important for 5 to 10 kilometer, but it is necessary for steeplechase?
Okay, very good question. Speed strength. Okay, what happens after every hurdles? What's happening to the athlete? When they land, they have to absorb and then to record and continue with the speed. So in terms of speed strength for steeplechase events, is due to the demand that they have to go over 28 hurdles, 7 water jumps, that every time they land, they have to learn to absorb the strength. So that's why speed strength will become a little bit more important for steeplechase as compared or in comparison to 5 and 10, because the actual contribution of speed strength abilities are rather very small, because 5 and 10 will be predominantly almost close to 90 odd% of aerobic contribution. So that's why speed element might not have a big impact or big importance as compared to a steeplechase.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, any other questions? If not, then we have a short break. Mr. Parvir takes over for the last session.
Yes,
Okay, Ken.
thank you, Parvir.
Thank you, Mira. Shall I start?
A short 5 minutes break. Hi, Parvir. 5 minutes break. We just ended.
Okay, all
5
right.
minutes, just a short 5 minutes break.
Okay.
Because today is a loading day for them, so give them a little bit of break.
Yeah. Load and recovery.
Yes, true. Okay.
Mr. Parfir, I think we can start the class. Mic is yours, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ria. Okay, so I will begin the next topic, today's topic, training, sprints and hurdles. So what is center of mass or center of gravity? Can anybody explain? Can you hear me?
Balancing of the body of the person.
So it is the point through which, sorry, once again. Sorry, my internet is unstable for a moment. I could not hear. My internet was unstable. I could not hear. Sorry. Please repeat. Can you hear me?
Yes, not so clear. Okay, please repeat.
Now can you hear me, Ria?
Yeah, we can now.
Okay, actually internet was unstable. So so what is center of gravity or center of mass?
Balance the object of the body of the part.
Okay. All right. So this is the point through which the entire mass of the body appears to act. Okay. So usually we have in a standing position, we have our center of gravity close to our center point below our belly button, hip. So can we change our center of gravity? Center of mass, the position of center of mass can be changed, or it is fixed in our
No,
body?
we can change it. Depend on the angle of the motion and angle of the part.
Yes, we can change the body position of the center of mass or center of gravity. If we change our body position, arms or legs, we can change when the body parts changes position in relation to body. So we can change our center of gravity. So center of gravity, the position of the center of gravity in all the events, whether sprint, throw or jump, plays a crucial role when we analyze the movement or the technique of a athlete. So motion. Motion, there are two types of motion movement, linear and angular. Linear when it is in a straight line, or angular when it is rotating. So displacement. So displacement is measured when it is linear displacement, it is measured in distance or in meter, and when it is angular, it is measured in angle in degrees. So displacement, rate of change of displacement, displacement of time is speed, and when it is changing the angular angle, it is angular speed.
So can you repeat again angular and linear? Sorry for. Can you repeat the
Can
linear
you
and angular?
hear me clearly? Actually, I think my net. Okay. So when body is rotating means it is rotating around an axis. So the body is rotating, the angular displacement or distance, we can say in simple words, we can measure it in angles or degree, how many degrees it has rotated. So when it is moving in a single line, in a single line, a straight line, the distance is measured in meter. So I will say the distance displacement. So we measure the straight line with the meters as in distance in a throws or in log jump. We measure it with the distance. But when the body is rotating, its displacement is measured in degrees. Okay, so the angle it is making from the center of axis. Is it clear? Can you hear me clearly? My voice is clear, please.
Yes, we can hear you clearly, sir.
Okay, thank you. So displacement over time is speed. How much distance is covered in seconds or in minutes, that is speed. Similarly, how much degrees has been covered in seconds in time is known as angular speed. Then displacement over time. So there is a difference between speed and velocity. Okay, when we say velocity, it has direction also, whereas speed, it is only magnitude or size. So velocity is displacement over time. Similarly, angular velocity is degrees divided by time in seconds, or it is in minutes. So rate of change of movement is known as acceleration. So it is meter per second per second. Similarly, when it is rotating, we call it angular acceleration. So velocity definition, it is meter per second. So in sprints, velocity is equal to velocity of an athlete or a sprinter or a runner is equal to stride length into stride frequency. Stride length in meters and stride frequency, how many strides has been taken per second. So multiply this, we calculate the velocity. So mean velocity is average velocity. Suppose a sprinter covers 30 meters in 3 seconds. Suppose then the mean velocity is 10 meters per second. It is 10 meters per second. This is the average velocity. Otherwise, if we will measure 10 distance for different segments, different part, the first part will be slower, then later will be faster. Instantaneous velocity at a small increment of time, like we say takeoff velocity in jumps or release velocity in throws. That is instant velocity. At the moment of release or at the moment of takeoff, what was the velocity of center of mass at that time? That is known as instantaneous velocity. But the mean velocity is how much distance has been covered per per second. So we divided into that total, sorry, not per second, how much distance covered in then divided by the duration in seconds or minutes. So when a runner, a sprinter is running, how many forces are acting on a sprinter? Can anybody explain from this figure the type of forces acting on a sprinter in this movement?
Friction.
Okay, friction, right?
Gravity.
Yes, gravity.
Air resistance.
Good. Yes, good. Air resistance. Yes, you are right. Okay. So air resistance, friction, that is braking forces. We have studied in level 1 biomechanics also. We have to reduce the braking forces in sprints. Then horizontal propulsion, that is the third law of Newton, action and reaction. So athlete is applying force against the ground, and in reaction it is getting propulsion from the ground, but by that force the athlete is moving or sprinter is moving forward. Then vertical propulsion also. So the force actually when the runner is exerting force against the ground, there are two components of forces. So one is horizontal and another one is vertical, and the resultant force is forward movement of the athlete, but the center of gravity of the athlete is also moving up and down during the sprint. So it is the resultant force which causes the forward movement or the linear motion. So vertical propulsion and horizontal propulsion and gravity, as you mentioned. So these are the forces which are acting on a sprinter while a sprinter is sprinting. So path of the center of the mass is the resultant horizontal velocity, just I mentioned, vertical and horizontal component that determine the path of the center of gravity of a runner. It is like that. In the flight phase, it is slightly higher, and at the time of touchdown, it is down. So it is not exactly horizontal, or it is parallel to the ground. There is slight curve in the movement of the center of gravity. So forces generated on the ground are more important than forces generated in the air. So this is the point during the sprint. The forces which are generated during the contact time are more important for sprint performance. So descriptors of maximum velocity. So actual stride length, when we measure the actual stride length, that is from toe to toe, at the moment of takeoff. You can see here from the takeoff up to the landing point. So this is the distance. Suppose this is 2.40 meter between that toe to toe. This is the actual stride length. But when we say effective stride length, that is the movement of the center of mass. The movement of the center of mass from takeoff of a runner. So when we measure, actually, if we want to measure a runner's stride length, simple way, that is from the distance toe to toe on the ground, that we usually consider the stride length. But the effective stride length is the center of mass movement from the point takeoff and to the landing, which you can see from this runner's analysis. The actual stride length is 2.40 meter, but the effective stride length of movement of center of mass from the takeoff up to the landing is 1.76 meter. So this table shows you the stride frequency of elite sprinters and novice beginner. So ground time, on average, it is contact time during the sprint of elite sprinters, average is 0.09 second. Whereas in case of young athlete or beginners, it is 0.12 second. So there is a difference between the contact time of a sprinter decreases. So air time, the flight time is also less. In case of elite sprinter, it is 0.11 second, and in case of novice sprinter, it is 13 second. Stride length time is 0.20 second in case of elite, and novice it is 0.25 second, and the novice. Stride frequency. Elite sprinter's stride frequency is faster. It is 4 steps per second. So this is the data which shows you the difference between the experienced elite level sprinter or a beginner. So when we say high-speed running athlete's mission statement is, the main part is reduce the time needed to apply the required force. So just the previous chart you have seen, the contact time, which is the actual time to apply force against the ground, is less shorter in case of elite athlete. So reduce the time needed to apply the required force. So this is point is a similar point which we have discussed in the strength training part and throws training part also, that your athlete has the ability to produce force but needs to produce that force with a shorter time, quick. That should be very quick. So similarly, like I just mentioned in throws here also, here in sprints also, the time required to generate the same force should be shorter. Okay, so higher forces with shorter time means you have better speed, strength, or you are able to produce greater force. So this is the difference between a world-class sprinter or a normal sprinter. So as the performance improves, the contact time or the force application time reduces. Reduce the time needed to recover the leg throughout full range of motion. So the recovery leg moves faster in a good performance sprinter. Goals of the sprinter to produce a greater force. This is the goal. So produce force in less time. So this is the same point, whether you are a thrower, you are a jumper, or you are a sprinter, you have to produce high force but with a shorter time, because you get very short time. Okay, so need to produce force with less time. Produce force in a proper direction. This is technical biomechanical point. So the force must be produced in a proper direction. Just this point we have discussed, the resultant force is outcome of two different components. One is horizontal component, one is vertical component. So at least both forces are acting, and the resultant of this force, both force component, causes the direction. So produce force in the proper direction. It should be in a proper direction. Produce force through optimal range of motion. So the range of the motion should be optimal. So these are the points which we have discussed about the sprints, the technical points, the biomechanical data. Now the hurdling. So when we say sprints and hurdles, we discuss it together. Hurdles, all the hurdle events require almost similar biomotor abilities which we require for a sprinter. So, but there is a difference. The hurdlers need additional demands as compared to a sprinter. So they need more superior level of strength and power. The hurdlers need a superior level, better strength and power than sprinters, superior level of dynamic mobility at the hip joint. Just in the previous session, when I just joined, one of participants asked about the Mr. Veera asked Mr. Veera asked about the speed strength or explosive strength for a long distance runner. So the same point was discussing in the sprint when in the hurdles, when a hurdler is landing from a height and again he has to accelerate and react. The hurdler needs better level of strength, explosive strength, and reactive strength. And along with that, a hurdler needs more hip mobility, a superior level of dynamic mobility at hip joint, whether it is hamstrings, dynamic flexibility, or hip joint to clear the lead leg or to clear the trailing leg. The hurdler needs more flexibility, more mobility as compared to a sprinter. And superior level of balance. Yes, a hurdler needs a superior level of balance as compared to sprinter, because sprinting as compared to in relatively hurdlers are disturbed more by the movement as compared to sprinters because they have to cross 10 barriers throughout the movement. The flight phases more and the movement is more complex in nature, and on each crossing and landing, the hurdler has to accelerate and to gain the or to maintain needs to maintain the balance and needs more courage. This all, of course, because a sprinter has to cross the barrier and to finish as fast as possible the race needs more courage. Hurdling is a rhythmic sprinting over barriers. So hurdling, it's a rhythmic event. It is sprinting, but it is a rhythmic sprinting over the barrier. You can even hear the, if you are not just standing close to a hurdler and not looking at the hurdler, you can listen, you can feel the rhythm of each landing or accelerating in between the hurdles, like 3 strides between the hurdle. So hurdling is a rhythmic sprinting over the barriers. So the sprint hurdles race is not one race, but 11 races of maximum acceleration, because each time in between hurdles, a sprinter has to accelerate. First, he has to accelerate, achieve velocity on the first hurdle, then 9 times in between, then from hurdle to finish line. So sprint hurdle race is not a race, but 11 races there in between from start to finish. So the sprint hurdling can be divided into 2 elements: sprinting between the hurdles. So sprinting between the hurdles, hurdle clearance. So those 2 parts. One is sprinting between the hurdle and hurdle clearance. So the sprinting element focuses on 3-step acceleration. The aim of the hurdle clearance is to minimize the time in the air. So a sprinter has to clear the hurdle also, but reduce the time over the hurdle. This is the aim of a hurdler. So components of hurdling: start and approach to first hurdle. Then it is preparation for takeoff. So first it is start and approach to the first hurdle, then preparation for takeoff, then clearance, landing and run out, landing and run off, acceleration between hurdles, acceleration to finish. So these are the 7 components from start to first hurdle: preparation, takeoff, clearance, landing and run off, acceleration between hurdles, and acceleration to finish. So the start and approach to the first hurdle: assume an efficient powerful set position, similarly to a sprinting. Then if your athlete is taking generally 8-stride approach, which requires trail leg in front block. So if your athlete is taking 8 strides normally, so the trail leg will be in the front block, because if it is 8 strides, so takeoff leg will be the same as the front block. But if the number of strides are odd, then it will be opposite. Takeoff leg for the hurdler will be on the rear block. Efficient and powerful acceleration through the first hurdle, because unlike like in sprinting, the sprinter gets throughout his maximum distance sprinter gets for acceleration, but it is not the same case in hurdles. Here the hurdler has to accelerate within that first distance. If it is 110 hurdle, 110 meter hurdles, it is 13.72 meter. Not only he has to achieve maximum possible speed, velocity, but he has to raise his upper body as compared to a sprinter, because he has to prepare for the takeoff also. So the body position will be different from, if we say first 13 meter of a sprinter or a hurdler, the body position, the leaning, forward leaning will be different as compared to a sprinter, because the hurdler has to prepare for takeoff and for the hurdle clearance also. So stride length progressively lengthens gradually, like in sprints. Stride before takeoff is quicker. So that stride is quicker before the takeoff. So preparation of takeoff, step over ankle rather than knee. So when the athlete steps for prepares for the takeoff, so it is more over the ankle because the drive is more forward. It should not be vertical. There, it is not a jump actually. It is extension. So if, it is a drive from the takeoff leg. So it is forward and little upward. The upward lift should be optimum. Otherwise, it will increase the flight time. So the takeoff, a powerful drive of the takeoff leg. Okay. So mechanically efficient lead leg attack. So lead leg attack is mechanically and efficient. Okay. So you can see here also, first the knee is flex. It remains flex. Lower leg remains below the knee till the thigh becomes horizontal. Then there is opening of the leg. This leads to a forward drive rather than vertical drive. Very active arm action to balance leg movement. So it's a very active action from the arms to balance movement, because if it is not active, it will cause rotation in the upper body. So because our lead leg is moving forward, to counter that, the opposite arm moves forward so that the shoulders remain square at this moment. It is a very active arm movement. So after takeoff, the trail leg executes proper recovery mechanics with possible hip external rotation and knee elevation. So it recovers and with the hip external and knee lifts up, and there is external rotation from the hips. The lead leg and trail leg functions in opposition with the scissor-like action. So it over the hurdle, it works like a scissor action. So as the lead leg pulls down, the trail leg moves forward. So this is a scissor-like action, happens along the hip. The lead arm drives down and around the trail leg knee. Okay. So it moves down around the trail leg knee. Opposite arm's hand raises the trail knee forward. So the opposite arm along with the trail leg knee moves forward. You can see in the last frame here, it moves along the trail leg for the forward movement. So landing and runoff, land on dorsiflexed ankle, landing point under center of mass. So we have discussed about the center of mass. The landing point is under the center of mass. If it is in front of the center of mass, what will happen? Can you answer me? If the landing point at this moment is not under the, what is the disadvantage?
Is it disadvantage? I think so.
Yes, it's disadvantage, but what is the reason? What is the cause?
The center of the mass is not as balanced, so you can balance to balance the body. I think so.
Okay. Any other point?
Breaking force will be more.
Yes,
Athletes, there's a high chance of
Breaking
athlete could not control their wood, like they may fall down.
Okay. Yes, OP, you explained some point.
Sir, breaking force will be more, sir.
Yes, this is the right point, because why I'm discussing, because this is the point we discuss in the biomechanics. In sprinting, we have to reduce the braking force in sprinting, all sprinting event. So over the hurdle, if your foot lands ahead of the center of mass, it will cause braking effect. Ultimately, it will reduce the velocity. We need braking forces also in some events. Some events mean throws, where at the final delivery phase, the front leg immediately breaks the force, stops, so that the lower body force can be converted into upper body and to the implement, whether it is javelin throw. You can see when javelin throw, they fix the last leg, they increase incredible braking force to convert the lower body momentum to the upper body. But this is not in same in the case of, it is opposite in case of sprint. In jumps also, like in jumps, you see main example is triple jump. On each landing after hop, step, hop and step, there is a pawing action downward and backward to accelerate, to maintain the momentum. So there we reduce the braking force. So what happens here, if the foot is landing ahead of the center of gravity, in any action, if landing point is ahead of the center of gravity, there will be a braking force. And one more point, land on dorsiflexed knee. What is dorsiflexed? Ankle. What is dorsiflexion? Can anybody explain?
Ball of your foot.
Okay. But dorsiflex position is when foot is in the air before landing. So you have to make that position before landing, and on the landing it is dorsiflex. Dorsiflex means when your toe is up, your ankle is totally, it is up. So your ankle is flexed actually. Toe is close to the shin bone. So why we make dorsiflex? When it is a dorsiflexion, that causes your whole calf muscle to stretch, to lengthen actually at the full range. So if your ankle is dorsiflexed at the moment of landing, now we say that you can see in this figure number 2, immediately upon landing, the hurdler runs forward. So he has to, your athlete has to apply force. So a force will come from the ankle, from your calf muscles. So if your calf muscle is fully lengthened, then from this point, your athlete will contract that muscle and there will be a forward drive. But if it's hanging loosely means your calf muscle is shortened. So upon landing, what will happen? First, it will extend to create force. Then again, it will contract. So the process will be slow. Your athlete will not get sufficient force. So that's why the landing should be on dorsiflexed ankle. At landing, trail leg is fully recovered, transition position, active ground preparation of the trail leg with acceleration mechanics. So sprint finish, maintain an active forward landing position at touchdown. The run in distance is final reacceleration to finish line. So these are the points technically we discussed. So there are some gender difference between men and women. Okay, so you can see in this chart the stride length not closely related to normal sprinting length in hurdling, whereas in women it is more closely to the normal sprinting action. So the in between distance actually, because rules are fixed, so in between distance for hurdlers, they are not running at normal length, they are normally running at a shorter length. Then path of center of mass, appreciably raised during clearance due to the height of the hurdle. Okay, so height of the hurdle for men is as relatively high, so they have to raise slightly center of gravity, whereas in case of women, not appreciably raised during clearance. Body dip, because height is more, so naturally to counter that force, to minimize the vertical lift and minimize the air flight time, so it is more pronounced, whereas the body dip is pronounced, it is there in women, but it is less as compared to men. Trail leg, greater lateral deviation of the trail leg. We have seen the lateral deviation is more in case of men, whereas a smaller lateral deviation of the trail leg. But these all things are happening because of the rules. Rules mean, and men have 110-meter hurdles, in between distance is different, whereas in case of women, it is different. So sprint hurdle difference for men from if they are running flat 110 meter, and then over the hurdle, the difference between that time flat and hurdle can be between 1.8 to 2 seconds. But whereas in case of women, it is less. It is 0.9 to 1.2 second. Thank you. If you have any question, you can ask. Okay, after this is the end of the session day. You must be tired after a long.
No. But we enjoy, so we learn a lot of them. Thank you for your giving a very good lecture. I really very appreciate, and I'm learn a lot of this lecture.
Welcome.
It doesn't matter we are be tired or thing, but a lot of things we have to learn. Thank you.
Okay, I think this brother has been a productive day. We have managed to cover almost the event specific details for the events, for the different events, different event groups. So going forward tomorrow, we'll be touching on a little bit on planning, and then enough of listening to us talking, more of you guys to do some work as a team. So tomorrow afternoon, be prepared to go into the breakout rooms, have a what I call a laptop, a computer, somewhere where you can actually work out the discussion, because you guys will be required to do a presentation. So that will be the plan for tomorrow. With that, I think I will hand over to Ibu Ria to maybe you can close the session for today.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Parfir, Mr. Fira, for the lesson today. And also thank you so much for the participation of all the respected participants here who have been attend the whole class, the whole day. Thank you so much. So
thank you.
I will check. Sorry. I will check if our Mr. Adi, our IT here, because we would like to make a group photo. The second Adi.
Yeah.
So please stay on your video mode. So we will have a group photo now before we close this class. Okay, Pak Adi. So everyone, please stay on your video mode.
Video.
Yes, video. Still some here, not in the video. Sorry. Barely I have to check whether all attended here. Nasrin, is Nasrin? Okay, Pak Adi, you may proceed.
Okay, finish.
Finish?
Yes, finish.
Okay then. Okay, so see you again tomorrow with the same Zoom ID and passcode.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. See you all tomorrow.
See you again. Bye-bye.
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 Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so
much.
Thank you so much.
Mbak Nia. tidak menyapa.
Nave na imo chino. Sanis wangu na me chaki. Shibu shibu.
Halo Nia. Halo.